I'm Teresa van Lieshout and this is Ilya Dinov, and we're going to talk about the universal basic income system where every citizen is entitled, well, possibly citizen, like adult citizen, that's how it would work economically, over the age of 18 would be entitled to a minimum income, say $300 a week, for the purpose of survival. Ilya is going to talk about it mostly, so you've prepared a speech, haven't you?
Yes, thanks for having me on this video. Thank you very much, Teresa.
That's okay.
And well, I really love all your great work in the community, so thank you. Thanks for having me here. I want to talk to you about universal well-being rights. I believe it is time that life was respected. It is time a high value was placed on human life in our society. What would that mean? Politically, that would mean giving everybody the right of well-being. That means you have a right to be safe from famine and tyranny. Once upon a time, it may have been considered that more suffering somehow made for a more noble life, such as, Nelson Mandela, certainly a noble man. So whilst, it is true that some of those with the harshest conditions go on to do great things for the human race. But today it's different. It's almost 2020 and there has been far too much poverty and there's been too much political tyranny. There's been far too much poverty with almost half of the world living in poverty today, and that's the statistic according to the World Health Organization. There have been too much political tyranny through wars, trampling on human life in general, and it's all due to a fundamental disrespect for all life. How has this become the norm? Well, it is blatant disrespect. It's been justified through one major lie that we've all been fed. There are just not enough resources to go around. There seems to never be quite enough, is there?
That's right. Well, Australia's the second wealthiest nation on earth in terms of resources, wealth, natural wealth resources. So
that's really good that you should say that.
We can create a basic income system in Australia for citizens, adult citizens.
Well, it's not just Australia.
So that they can survive.
It's not just Australia, but you're right, because let's look at basic resources. If money was evenly distributed in 2019 all over the world, did you know that every woman, man and child would have $34,000 to their name?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Each country produces more food than it can consume. But under the current global system, where with the taxation and with the redistribution of food, with the agreements that countries have with one another through, free trade agreements and all that kind of stuff, poverty becomes the norm as a result of that. So the problem with resources is not a lack of money, but limitless desires on our planet.
There's a lot of waste. People consume things and then...
That's right, while others have to go without.
Well, the rich have a lot of wealth and it's not even that we don't have even wealth distribution, which is a cause of poverty. And
further to that, a Canadian study in 2018 found that if we house the homeless rather than rely on emergency services and law enforcement to sweep up the problem as they currently do, it would actually cost us 20% less.
Like prevention strategies.
Yeah. In fact, they have a policy called Housing First policy in Canada, and a separate study found that particular policy that puts housing as a first priority above all other social issues has led to a significant reduction in alcohol abuse and related disorders.
Yeah, that's sensible. If people are housed, they can find a job or have get a basic income, and even if people stay home and write books or paint or produce art or that sort of thing. If they've got a house, somewhere to live, they can do something, whether it's in the community or a home, or they can survive and they can thrive as well.
That's right.
And it's a prevention cost for the whole society.
That's right. Rather than wasting money on police and ambulances, all the emergency services.
If you have prevention strategies for people, then it's better that it saves the cost eventually of society.
I propose universal basic income, and so I would say that the tired, and I think you'd agree with me, the tired old argument by governments that there is simply not enough is simply not true. In fact, more money for everyone would mean, as you sort of pointed out, more money in the economy, and that means the facilitation of the exchange of essential services and goods. Secondly, I propose a chart of basic human rights. After all, money does not guarantee that all human life be respected, as it should. So this should include, but not necessarily be limited to, the right to be housed or shelter, the right to be clothed, the right to good health care, and the right to access food and water. But most importantly, the right to self-determination, because this means the right to make life-important choices free from government interference. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, basic human, fundamental human rights and freedoms that should apply to all citizens as a basic point of survival. If you don't have those basic fundamental rights and freedoms, people die.
That's right. It becomes unethical.
They can't, and it becomes a moral dilemma where do the rich and the powerful allow the poor and vulnerable to die? That becomes a great moral dilemma. You could argue then that becomes government murder, for example. And I know that sounds serious, but it is that serious. It's the truth. It's the fact.
Did you know that 123 million people died in all wars combined in the 20th century alone?
That's not surprising.
And in the 21st century, despite with us being in the infancy of this century, there's been a tragic, staggering 5 million deaths in wars. So we are following the tragic trend of the 20th century.
Probably more than that, actually.
Yeah? I wouldn't be surprised. But we are easily following the tragic trend of the 20th century so far, and we can prevent a lot of death and suffering by giving everyone, those basic things that are there. We've got them. It's not like we don't have enough of housing or clothing or healthcare.
And using the resources of a nation wisely to look after the people and the redistribution of wealth. I taught and studied economics for 20 years, so if you understand some basic economic principles, you can create strategies to redistribute wealth that is fair and equitable. And it can be done if you've got good, smart people with the will to do it. You can manage the economy in a way that wealth is redistributed in a fair and equitable way so that people survive. Again, it's about survival. Why do people need millions and millions of dollars? They don't need millions of dollars when they die. They can't take that with them.
No, that's right.
And because that wealth distribution is not equitable,
everyone becomes poorer for that.
Those people survive, the rich survive, and the poor and vulnerable die. But that becomes, as we said before, a moral dilemma. There's eternal consequences to that too. Will those people go to heaven or not? Do you know what I mean? So the rich have a moral responsibility to be listening to this sort of thing too. You know what I mean?
Well,
because
I believe heaven is within our reach on this planet. It's up to us how we're going to manage the affairs of this planet, because we're the custodians of this planet.
We are the stewards of the planet. People destroy the planet, they pollute the planet, they destroy the physical earth.
And that's their choice.
And in the book of Revelation, there says there's a judgment about that too. So everything is seen and comes under judgment, whether good or bad. So, but thanks.
Well, thank you for
Ilya for hanging out with me and doing this video.
Thank you for your economic and religious insights. Wow. It's really, really interesting. And I hope everyone can take a part of that.
The universal basic income system, which is, in a practical sense, it probably only would apply to adults, over the age of 18 or even 21. Correct. Where every citizen of the nation, say we're talking about Australia, be paid $300 a week, so that the homeless can find somewhere to live, and people then would work on top of that as well. So every citizen would be entitled to, say, $300 a week, and then people that want to work extra on top of that to increase their income, to earn more. That would be the right of every citizen.
There's plenty of incentive to work for more than the basic income. That's right. So it's not going to take away from the economic activities that we currently have. In fact, it would even boost it. As you said,
it will boost
no one likes to do nothing. Everyone likes to either paint or write books or do art. That all adds value to our economy.
And work in the community.
And work in the community. There's a lot of unpaid work out there. We both know that.
In extra business activity as well, but working, whether you want to work for an employer or a business or a corporation, that people are freely entitled to do that, to earn extra. But that basic $300 a week should be given to every citizen. It also would allow people to have more recreation time for their families as well.
Yes.
And for themselves. So they may then want to work 4 days a week and have 3 days recreation time, which is a lot healthier. You know, we are not designed just to work ourselves to death. We should use our wealth and our economic resources and our economic wisdom and knowledge to give everyone a basic income. And then you work on top of that if you want to earn more money. People want to earn as much as they want to earn, but life is not just about working. It's about, it's not just about working, it's about family, it's about friends, it's about, exploring your gifts and talents. Like we said, you might want to write a book, you might want to paint, you might want to create music.
And raising children is one of the most underrated jobs. And we need more time to raise children.
People have more time for their families to stay home and be with their children.
It makes for a better, more highly educated generation in the future.
Absolutely. And that distribution of wealth, it can be done. It absolutely can be done.
Can be done. We just,
we just need to find a will, a way to do it.
We need to find a will. We need
political will.
We're gonna, if that's all right with you, we're gonna start a change.org website.
We've got one, change.org.
Yeah,
so sign the
right.
change.org.
We stared it, and we just
we've got a few signatures.
Just got 3, but we're gonna make 3,000, 3 million. We're gonna make 3. We're not editing this. We want to get 3 million at least before we can really see a change up there. So we really encourage you to get on board and sign the petition. It's not very hard. You don't have to donate a single cent to sign.
Yeah, this is especially benefits not just the vulnerable, but it benefits all the hardworking Australians out there, that you may get an extra day recreation and time with your family. You might want to work 4 days a week, not 5 days a week, and have more time to yourself. This benefits you, all the hardworking people out there who, just driving around working or go to work. Some people 6 or 7 days a week, and people complaining to me they're getting home at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock. There's no time. It's like the governments of the world working people to death, which is just not morally right.
Well, when people work less, I believe they do contribute to society in those more intangible ways that we talked about.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win for everyone, and to think that people are just going to bludge off the system is just a total myth. No. When you consider a lot of the problems, a lot of the issues that I've quoted about homelessness and alcohol, they stem from poverty. Money begets more money, but then poverty begets more poverty as well.
That's
if that
right.
makes sense.
In the end, it'll actually save the society a lot of money by having that basic income accessible. Just think about if people have a basic income, we can help. Even if they can't find somewhere to live, we can help them find somewhere to live. You know what I mean? So it'll create self-perpetuating, reliance and self-independence, and that. And then people always will need help in society, but if they've got that basic income, there's no excuses then for that person to be able to help them find somewhere to live and something to do, some sort of activity, whether a part-time job or some volunteer work or whatever.
Shall we wrap it up?
Well, let's wrap it up.
That was really, really good. I don't think we're going to cut anything out of there.
We'll cut a bit out. Well, it's up to you. I don't care.
It was really good. Thank you. It was amazing chatting to you, Teresa. Thank you so much.
Ilya,
all right.
Good on you, mate.
Cheers.
Well done.
Thank you. Sign the petition. Thanks, guys.